Well, I said this is something that we would keep an eye on. And I think, to be honest, having a look, or at least keeping a very close eye at what is going on the Teesside Freeport is very important because there are developments every so often. And to be honest, they all point to what we all suspected and what we've been following along for quite a long time. There seems to be a lot of, well, dodgy dealings, and in this case, a lot of pork pies being told about what's really going on at the Teesside Freeport. But for those of you who maybe don't know, here's a quick catch up about what a Freeport is and, well, what we've had so far going on at the Teesside Freeport. So, what is a Freeport? Well, essentially, it is an area of the UK, namely in this case a port, where they sort of pull back the border of the UK, where you can land goods and have them processed, and then those processed goods then will cross the border for a reduced tariff fee in that case. But the big case here is that this is technically not in the UK territory. So rules, or at least certain rules, don't apply. There is a lot of worry here that employers who employ people to work in this free port won't have to pay national insurance, which will be, well, a big problem to the employees because you're working for a company that suddenly doesn't pay your national insurance contribution. There are a load of other employment issues that this also raises as well. And of course, what or do not these companies rules and regulations do they get or not to follow? Because, like I say, technically they're not in the UK because, as we said, you sort of pull back the border to be in this free port. And as we've said before, these free ports are not very good. Historically and economically, they have proven to be very, very bad for companies. Even historically in the UK, when Margaret Thatcher opened up her own version of free ports, these free ports did not work out themselves. Indeed, David Cameron actually closed down the last free port in 2012 because, well, it wasn't performing economically, nor was it providing any good economic benefits to the region. And yet, Rishi Sunak, massive fan of free ports, pretty much because he is the, well, not the was well, he was taught by the guy who came up with the idea of not only free ports but free cities as well, and that's a whole nother case of well, bizarre libertarian free market thinking. But this free port, of course, in Teesside is the massive flagship project for Rishi Sunak and meant to be the symbol of how all the rest of these other free ports are meant to develop. But if you've been following along, as I said, there have been lots of especially corruption allegations going on over at the Freeport. And to be honest, there have been real signs of a lot of dodgy dealings going on over there. So this really does not bode well for many of these future free ports to be built. And to be honest, the way this seems to be developing seems to be turning into quite a significant scandal for Rishi Sunak and the Conservative government. And I'll tell you now, this really seems to be gathering speed. And I think sooner or later, when this breaks, this will just be yet another scandal that the Tories can't escape from. And certainly for a lot of these areas, and certainly Ben Houchen, who staked his entire re-election on this, getting this free port built, it spells very, very bad news indeed for them. So, like I say, it's not going to, I think, end well for the Tories. But we're going to go diving into the latest piece of information about this and the free port that has come out. So before we do go diving into that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there's the Patreon page, and there's the one-off donation thing where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. So unfortunately, I can't show you this because it's just super annoying. But this comes from this week's, no, last week's, this week's. But anyway, it comes from the Private Eye. And of course, they are in this section, they've called it the Porky Pie Watch because there seems to be, as if you've been following this, a lot of lies being told about the Freeport. And especially the more and more people are digging into this, the more they are uncovering the lies that are going on here. So, this is what they had to report. So, broadcasters delving into the Teesside Freeport scandal are not helped by the regional mayor Ben Houchens. And the outriders, like the local MP, Sir Simon Clarke, a fellow honoree in Boris Johnson's discredited list, also dropping porky pies like a careless butcher. In a report from the Tees Works just a couple of weeks ago, BBC Radio 4 World at One's Sarah Montague asked Clarke and Houchen, having declined to appear, about the investments and the liabilities taken on by the businessmen who are creaming it from the project without even investing anything. Clarke has repeated the falsehood that Houchen had fed Newsnight back in May concerning the construction of the quay and on the south bank of the Tees using a major loan from the government's own UK infrastructure bank, saying there's a £107 million loan for the new South Bank quay, he told Montague. Or Montague, they, the businessmen, have adopted that loan and they are therefore on the hook for that. Except, and this is where it gets interesting, except the figures from the Tees Valley Combined Authority, which owns the development corporation and are responsible for the project, show the businessmen are very much not on the hook. No more than a couple of days before the interview, the Tees Valley Combined Authority released its latest Treasury Management report, where it showed that it owes the £170 million, and it doesn't take a chartered accountant to appreciate that two different companies can't owe the same amount. The truth is that companies controlled by the businessmen may have to reimburse the public sector for this spending, but only when they make enough profit from the quay. This they will almost certainly do by flipping it, having bought it for at least £16.72 plus VAT. But having been given an agreement to operate the quay, which they can do also by flogging it very profitably, if they can't do this, then they don't pay anything. As the accountants prove, as the accounts prove, it's very much the taxpayer who will be on the hook. In the heads, if they win; tails, the public loses the deal of the century. So again, more fantastic reporting, to be honest, from the private eye, who've been really focused on this. And again, most of the who've been they've been really leading the investigation on this and uncovering more and more stuff. And I will tell you now, the more stuff we find out about this, the more it becomes obvious that if this Freeport fails, and to be honest, there's every chance it probably will do, because again, historically, Freeports have not been, or at least proved to be, the economic boom that politicians have made them out to be, especially politicians like Rishi Sunak. And remember, this is his big flagship policy, as of course Ben Houchen as well, the only Conservative regional mayor. If the Freeport fails, then, well, certainly Ben Houchen ain't getting re-elected. If this proves to be a massive scandal, which almost certainly this seems to be turning out to be, then not only is this going to potentially lump in huge accusations against Rishi Sunak, which, to be honest, Labour should be taking a sledgehammer and making sure that this is looked into. There is already currently an independent investigation going on to this. Gove assigned, unfortunately, decided not to take on the National Audit Office, which should be the ones taking in this audit. Instead, he has taken on an independent panel, which, okay, it's an independent panel, but I don't understand why Gove went to do that when he could have had the National Audit Office. They are more than capable of doing things like that. Like I say, that's what they do, but there you go. We'll see how that investigation turns out, but ultimately, as I said before, I think this is just a massive scandal in the making, and this certainly spells the doom for all these Freeports. It certainly spells doom for Ben Houchen, because, like you say, he's staked his entire re-election campaign and even his future campaign of getting this Freeport up and running. And of course, well, so much for Rishi Sunak, who was a big supporter of these Freeports. He's going to have a lot of questions to answer when this probably scandal ends up breaking. And to be honest, it does end up looking like, well, this is going to go that way, because none of the information that we're getting so far points to that there's, quote, in the words of Ben Houchen, nothing dodgy going on at this Freeport. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.